Today we're going to be taking a look at the WWF 1982 and 1983. Some really good times in wrestling for the WWF, and we're going to focus just on the WWF. But before I go ahead with the video, I just wanted to straighten one thing out. One of the people on made a comment about Backlund versus Harley Race match that I had mentioned on a previous video, and I tried to find the comment. He must have deleted it because it's gone. He kind of came at me about it, how wrong I was, and believe me, by no means do I claim to know everything. I'm far from knowing everything. I don't know anything. All I know is I see the magazine in front of my face, and sometimes I say the wrong name or the wrong date because, like I said, it's not pre-planned or premeditated. I don't know what I'm going to say. I just look at the cover and I say what comes to mind as I see that cover. And a lot of times I'll misspeak, say somebody's name wrong or the date wrong, and justifiably so. And please, by all means, correct me, because the last thing I want to do is put anything incorrect out there. I'm trying to give you, all the correct information. I'm not a history teacher on wrestling. I don't claim to be, don't want to be. I just care about the magazines and the programs and things like that. Everything else is meaningless to me. Therefore, I had said Backlund and Race in September of 1980, they had a match at the Garden, and I said they also had it at the in St. Louis, and the person says no, they didn't, and they did, and I said, well, I have a program for it, and here it is. Backlund had went up against Harley Race November 7th, 1980. After, I believe it was September, was the match with the Garden. They did it again outside of the Garden in St. Louis. And here's the program. And here is the lineup. Harley Race, world champion. Bob Backlund, WWF champion. And the person wrote the results inside. Both people, let's see. Bob was disqualified for throwing Race over the top, but actually Race threw himself over the top. Race took one fall, Backlund took the second fall, and Backlund was disqualified on the outcome of the match was a disqualification, and Bob lost. So this was on October 30th's issue of St. Louis Wrestling program, and this match took place November 7th, 1980. So there it is for the guy who said I was dead wrong. I'm wrong about many things. Like I said, a lot of times I say my mouth is running faster than my brain sometimes, and I get ahead of myself by saying the wrong name, the wrong date. And like I said, that's going to happen sometimes because it's not pre-planned. I'm not reading off of a script. But if I said there was a match that took place and I was pretty confident about it, there's a reason why, and I have proof, and there's the match, there's the program. So that being said, by all means, feel free to comment anytime you want if I make a mistake. And this isn't about me. These videos aren't about me. It's about wrestling and the history and getting it straight. So I'll be wrong 10,000 times if it means, to get the right information out there. That's more important than anything else. So if you know something and you say something and it's incorrect, or you see me say something that's incorrect, I'm a grown adult, and so are you, apparently, because my group is 45 to 65, 100% according to YouTube analysis. But we can have a discussion about it, and maturely, and that's what it's all about. And if any people are rude, ignorant, or nasty to anyone's comment, or even the slightest bit smug about somebody's reply, they're just banned from the channel. So it's just as simple as that. There's no arguing back and forth. There's no, I'm better than you, and you're better than me, and I'm smarter than this, and, piss off, man. We don't have time for that crap. We're just here to have fun, look back at a good time period, and a good time period, one of my favorite periods between the WWF era is 82 and 83. So kind of like we looked at in the Florida Championship Wrestling video I made, this is going to be focused on the WWF as the WWF appeared on the magazine covers from 82 all the way through 1983. And we're also going to look at the Madison Square Garden event because that was the biggest venue for the WWF. And we're going to see the matches that took place in that month. So right off the bat, January 18th, 1982, Madison Square Garden, would be the first appearance of Jesse the Body Ventura, and Adrian Adonis also making his appearance just a little while sooner. They both came from the AWA, coming off the Tag Team Championships, and they both made their way into the WWF. Adrian came on a little bit sooner, maybe a month or so before Jesse, and Backlund is defending the title here against Adrian Adonis. Also, Valentine challenging Pedro for the Intercontinental title. Gurria and Martel try to regain the tag team titles against Fuji and Saito. That is January 18th. The cover of PWI, it's got a small corner here of Bob Backlund on January's issue, 1982 PWI. The tagline, Hulk Hogan, that trophy belongs to me. And it's in reference to the Backlund wrestling in Japan, and he was awarded the best American wrestler in Japan award, and that was the trophy, and Hogan believes that it belongs to him. So that's where that's coming from. So Backlund was awarded Best American Wrestler of the Year, and the inside poster for PWI is the magnificent Morocco. Great shot of Morocco with the title. I usually don't open these up and show, but with Morocco with the belt, I thought for sure why not show at this time. So January 1982. Sports Review, 1982 January, is Backlund taking on Morocco, and Morocco now title versus title. Backlund Intercontinental versus WWF Heavyweight Championship on Sports Review. The Ring, not every magazine had a WWF cover, so you're not going to see every issue from 1982. It's only when the WWF appears on the cover is what we're going to discuss. This says The Ring's Wrestling, December/January 1982. So this is the Ring's issue for, just say, January of 1982. And it's got Gurria and Martel are the tag team champions. Looks very similar to this issue of Wrestling News. It looks very similar because it's the same one, just a different publication owned by the same publisher. This is Wrestling News. And this is not dated. It's just listed as issue number 78. So if you're collecting Wrestling News, it's going to look exactly the same, and it's different. It's a different name. So, I have every Rings, I have every Wrestling Review, and every Wrestling News, and it gets very, very confusing. Like, I made a video on explaining all this crazy shit with this publication and how they number their system. It would drive you nuts. There's several that are going to be like this. It's a duplicate cover, but just a different publication. And that was it for January 1982 for WWF being featured. Let's go to February. Tony Atlas is on the cover. February 15th, 1982, Madison Square Garden. Backlund in a return bout in a Texas Death against Adrian Adonis. Valentine also taking on Pedro for the Intercontinental. Fuji and Saito take on Gurria and Martel. Tony Atlas versus Killer Khan, and Jesse the Body takes on SD Jones. Almost the same kind of a card as the following month, as the previous month. Inside Wrestling, February 1982, Backlund taking on Greg Valentine, and a lot of these were pulled from my signed copies just because it was easier to dig these out. That's the only reason I'm showing them, because this way I didn't have to dig down and grab my other ones which were buried. It just saved time just to grab my autographed ones because they're all on a shelf. This is the match where they pulled the dupe finish where Backlund pinned Valentine, and the referee raised Valentine's hand as the winner and caused all kinds of confusion. They both had black trunks on, they both had blonde hair, and the referee got confused, and that held the title up for 1 month till the return bout. February 1982 PWI, and it's got Morocco and Backlund on the small corner shot, and a very bloody Flair on the cover of PWI with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Making his return is superstar Billy Graham, and Wrestling News is the first to break the news of Superstar, and he got the new look with the Grand Wizard, and got the bald head and the karate gimmick, and that reminds me, man, I'll save it for another time. So your first look at returning Superstar Graham in winter of '82. Moving on to March. So whenever you see a garden program, that's going to change the month. Also, I start every one of these videos with Inside Wrestling, the Wrestler Sports Review. Those are the three that I'll go in order. So if you see Inside Wrestling pop up, that's also a beginning of a new month, because sometimes the Garden didn't have a show. They would have 2 in 1 month and nothing for, like, say, April. You'll see there's a couple like that in these 2 years. March 14th, 1982, Bob Backlund takes on Jesse the Body Ventura with Ivan Putski as the referee, and this was the angle where Putski starts his feud with Jesse, even went to an arm wrestling competition as well. Fuji and Saito, once again, defending the tag team titles against Quick Draw Rick McGraw and Andre the Giant. Pedro defending the Intercontinental title against Adrian Adonis. Greg Valentine, SD Jones on the preliminaries. Here is a Philadelphia Spectrum program as well, just for that month, and it's all dedicated to the Superfly Snooker. This is for March 9th, 1982. So March of 1982, Inside Wrestling front cover is the Valentine match, a return bout from the botched finish from the month before, and Valentine here getting the kick down from Backlund. Great looking magazine cover. Always liked this color with the purple, and the purple robe Valentine had, very reminiscent to Flair's robes. And March of '82 Sports Review, great looking shot. Fuji and Saito are still the tag team champions. Here there's a small corner shot of them on March '82, the wrestler. The year-end awards, March, PWI, and Bob Backlund is the most inspirational wrestler of the year. Captain Lou would be manager of the year. Bruno Sammartino Jr., who's not WWF yet, rookie of the year. I believe he was in Georgia at this time, getting ready to start a small feud with Larry Zbyszko. The Ringside Wrestling Magazine, brought to you by the people from Wrestling Scene, comes out with issue number 1 for Ringside, and Putski taking on Hulk Hogan. This is an older shot from about a year prior or so. Hogan, by this point, had already left the World Wrestling Federation, but it's a shot from the Garden. The Rings Wrestling got a shot with Pedro, and Pedro regains the Intercontinental Championship from Morocco, and this is the announcement of Pedro regaining the Intercontinental. Pretty much the same magazine as this here, only this time they changed the color. So this would go by the Rings Wrestling March of '82. This one would go by Wrestling News issue number 80, okay, in the numbering system. So this would also be number 80 as well. So it is a duplicate, and it is part of Wrestling News's debacle with the Rings and Wrestling Review. Also, Wrestling News put out another issue, March of '82, and it's talking about Tony Garea. Is the 5 times champion enough? Will he continue on and find a new tag team partner? He does tag team up with Eddie Gilbert for a short time when Eddie first came up to the Northeast, and Tony would pretty much be on his way out and down on the WWF point. He does no longer gain any more championships. Moving on to April 1982, Bob Backlund defends the title against Jimmy Snuka, who was red hot. Fans were really starting to take a liking to him, and he was about to turn face real shortly. Blackjack Mulligan took on Steve Travis. Big tag team match with too many people to name. Tony Atlas takes on Jesse the Body in a feud from the month before when Backlund took on Jesse and the Putski was the referee. Charlie Fulton took on Tony Gurria, Adrian Adonis, and Pete Sanchez on the bottom card. Wrestling Superstars, spring of 1982, Scott Mascaris and Magnificent Morocco. This would be from the Brendan Byrne Arena. Great looking cover of Mascaris. He's soon to be disappearing from the American magazines, coming off of a ridiculous amount of magazines from the 70s, early part of the 80s or so. He kind of just stayed mostly in Japan and Mexico. Still did his touring around, but only stuck to pretty much the big shows. Wrestling News, it's got a cover for Steve Travis. Some of our friends in the Mid-Atlantic area would know him as Steve Muslin. And just an interview with Steve. Would have a short career, wouldn't go on to make it too far in the WWF. Adrian Adonis now appearing on the cover of May's issue, 1982 with Backlund. And just trying to see what I did with April. Oh, there's no garden show for May. I think they have 2 in June. I was saying that before. Sometimes they double up. So there's no garden show in May, and they have 2 shows in June. You'll see in a sec. But Backlund covering against Adonis. We just seen the magazine. What was that, in January? So it took like 4 months for the magazines to pick that up. Backlund on the cover. The All-American Boy grows up on his 4th year as heavyweight champion. May of 82. Also, the strange reappearance of superstar Billy Graham. Spring 1982, got the cover, Jesse and Backlund. We just talked about their match at the Garden just a few short months back, and it's on the cover of Wrestling World, spring of 82. Also, PWI's got a small corner shot here of Jesse taking on Backlund. Great shot of Adrian Adonis on the cover of Exciting Pro. I'm sorry, the Big Wrestler, Big Wrestler Japan, May's issue, talking about Adonis in the WWF and taking on Backlund, and some of his tag team championship titles with Jesse are mentioned in this issue as well. Great looking shot of Adonis on that cover. Gets us to June 5th. So you're going to see one for June in the beginning of the month, and you'll see another one at the end. So it'll be a double shot of MSG. Backlund taking on Superfly Snuka in a rematch. Andre the Giant takes on Blackjack Mulligan. Pedro defends the title against Mr. Fuji. Ivan Putski takes on Saito. Bob Orton takes on Steve Travis. Bob Orton just making it to the area as well. Blackjack Mulligan Jr., Barry Windham also, who would become later on. Much better look for Barry as Barry Windham. But we're talking about Pedro defending the title against Greg Valentine on June 82 Inside Wrestling. Jesse the Body and Adrian get the full cover. Great shot of these two guys on the cover of PWI. Both had a run against Backlund, and now they are both tag teaming together for the first time for not a very long couple of months. They did a tag team here for a couple of shows, and then they split up again. Backlund back on the cover of Main Events Wrestling, June of 82, taking on Valentine. And this is during their second match for the Texas Death Match from the Garden. End of the month now, June 28th. So the Garden's second show, and the Backlund takes on Snuka in a steel cage. Great match that was. If you haven't seen that, definitely check that match out. Pedro defends the Intercontinental against Bob Orton. Fuji and Saito take on the Strongbow brothers. Fuji and Saito would lose, and the Strongbow brothers would become the WWF Tag Team Champions. That was June 28th. July, we have Adrian Adonis in the corner with Backlund during their second match at the Garden on July 82 Inside Wrestling. Fuji and Saito still listed as the tag team champions, summer of 82 wrestling superstars. And, there's a lag time between, could be 2, could be as late as 4 months before the magazines would pick up the title changes. So it's still pretty fresh in the magazines. Didn't make it that far yet. Summer of 82 Wrestling World. Adrian Adonis on the bottom here, arm locked with Rick Martel. The Carolina Connection, Quick Draw Rick McGraw and Steve Travis partnering up to make the Carolina Connection, July of 82's issue of Wrestling Review. August, Bob Backlund, August 2nd, 1982, defends the title against Cowboy Bob Orton. I remember the interview before the match and on TV, and Bob Orton was saying, I'm going to take your title and you're going to be crying and you're going to have so many tears, I'm going to be bringing in a raft, I'm going to float back to the locker room from your tears, carrying your belt as I drift back to the locker room from all your tears. So I often wonder, I'm like, man, I wonder if he really brought a little raft with him to the ring. Stupid things you remember and think of when you're 10, 12, 13 years old. Everyone else on the card is Andre taking on Mulligan in a Texas Death. Pedro defending the Intercontinental title against Superfly. Tony Atlas takes on Mr. Saito. Masked Executioners take on the Stromba brothers. Sorry, Masked Demons, whoever they were, right down here. The Masked Demons. Don't know who they were. Probably couldn't get somebody else, and they threw a few guys in the mask for the night. Something must have happened there. August 82, Mulligan and Backlund on the cover of Inside Wrestling. Andre and the Masked Superstar get the main shot on the cover. Superfly and Backlund at the Garden from their first meeting on the cover of Wrestling Scene. This is also issue number 1 from Wrestling Scene. It's just an autographed photo on the back. I thought it was the program to that. Actually, I already showed the other program. I used to have 2 of them. I had them behind it. Putski taking on Samoan Afa in August 1982, wrestling's main event. Rick Martel, since losing the tag titles, invades the AWA, and Bob Backlund gets an award from the Police Athletic League on the cover of The Rings, August of 1982. New tag team champions on the cover of the MSG program for August 30th. Too bad they're not wearing their belts. Backlund defends the heavyweight championship against Playboy Buddy Rose. And Snuka takes on Pedro in a return bout for the Intercontinental. Jesse takes on Tony Atlas in a small feud they would have before Jesse's time ran out in the WWF. September 1982's issue. Great looking shot on that cover. Blackjack Mulligan and Steve Travis in the corner here, September 1982. Wrestling Review got all 3 world champions together on their cover of September. Backlund down in Atlanta to challenge Ric Flair at the Omni for the NWA WWF Clash, and they are on Georgia TV with Gordon Soley here. 1982's issue of September issue of Gong. A lot of good coverage is in here. I think we show this a few times and show the inside pages, good looking shots in there of that match. October 4th, next MSG show. And it's got superstar Billy Graham goes after Backlund defending the WWF title. Pedro takes on Buddy Rose, Andre the Giant, and Bob Orton on the 4th. Snuka and Backlund make the cover of October 1982. Good looking shot here, Snuka and Backlund. Great looking magazine cover. Bloodied up Andre the Giant with his ongoing feud with Blackjack Mulligan. on the October 82's Inside Wrestling. Great looking shot of Superfly here in Japan with Captain Lou on the cover of Weekly Fight, trying to fit this whole thing in there. This is a newspaper magazine that came out once a week. It's huge. They did such an awesome job with these. I have all these newspapers, not all of them, but I have them, whatever ones I have are framed in a flexible plastic so it stays good. Just a great looking shot just before Superfly is about to turn face. Always loved the Japanese prints. They always put the best quality pictures out, man. It's just awesome covers like that keep me coming back for more. This is October of Wrestling Scene. Andre and Blackjack again, the battle continuing here at the Garden of those two. And you think Blackjack's big, and he is big, man. But when you see Andre, wow, it's just like he looks like a regular sized guy. It's just a massive. Two guys shocked me when I was a kid, you know. Andre, of course, with the size, and then but Bruiser Brody, man, you just don't really realize how big that dude is until you see him. And I got my picture gotten taken with him at the end of the show, and I look like this little tiny twerp. I mean, I was like 16, but man, he was just a giant guy. Him and Andre, just the two things I remember most about Andre and him is just how really intimidatingly big they were. It's baffling, dude. The rings, October 1982, the Strombos with Snuka here. Backlund here. Both champions again, but Strombos don't have their titles. Once again, kind of shitty. Great opportunity to show the champs. November 22, MSG and Superfly is on the cover with, I think he's taking on Albano in this one. I just don't see it there. But Superstar Graham in a return bout against Backlund. Yes, and Snuka is taking on Albano in a very bloody bout. That's the infamous, blade job where you see Captain Lou really like looking right at the camera and doing his thing in front of everybody. It's like, at the time, no one knew what they were looking at, so you really didn't pick up on it. It could have been anything, but once you knew the magic trick, you see these things now. It's like, damn. Thanksgiving night, Thursday, November 25th, Buddy Rogers comes out of retirement and teams up with Superfly Snuka to take on Stevens and Albano at the Philly Spectrum, program for that night in Philly. Flair's match with Backlund now gets to the cover of the magazines. Also, Snuka and Putski on the cover. Both WWF pictures for November of 82's issue. Great looking magazine cover. Wrestling Superstars winter issue also covering the Backlund and Flair match. Cowboy Orton was going after the Intercontinental title with Pedro just a few months back, and it's making the cover of PWI. One of the few covers Cowboy Bob is actually on. Wasn't on too many. Salvatore Bellomo comes out of nowhere to the WWF and does a lot of matches in the Spectrum. I remember him being in the Spectrum more than anywhere else. November of 82's issue of Wrestling Review. Last look at Superstar Graham on a cover of a program, and he's just about ready to leave the territory here in 83. Only a few short months left on his run. This is December 28th issue, and here the style changes, and they start putting the lineup on the back of the program, which is good. So now you can have to open the pages and find it in the middle. So Pedro defends against Morocco. Snuka takes on Crippler Stevens. Strombo Brothers versus Saito and Fuji. Buddy Rose taking on Ivan Putski. And Bellomo taking on Jose Estrada. Women's match, Fabulous Moolah and Wendy Rector, Princess Victoria, and the girl Sabrina. I don't know who that is. Wonder Girl Sabrina. Never heard of her, actually. December 82, Blackjack Mulligan and Andre the Giant. Great shot of Mulligan with the claw on the head of Andre. Another really good cover, I think, from the MSG match with Snuka and Morales, December 1982. Playboy Buddy Rose gets his title shot on the cover now of Sports Review, taking on Backlund, December of 1982. Wrestling Scene picking up Ric Flair and Bob Backlund title defense at the Omni. Wrestling's Main Event picked it up. Got a lot of coverage this match. Never really heard nothing about it except for the magazines. Never any film footage of the match, sadly. Then, hopefully one day someone might discover something, but crazy how they don't record this match. Fuji and Saito regained the tag team championships. On the bottom here, the Rings Wrestling 1982, December. And is this January? Yes, January 1983. So we're moving up to 1983, and it's Snuka and Rogers on the cover. And Big John Studd is taking on Backlund. Superstar Graham Swede Hansen. Small feud they had there. Swede costed Superstar the match against Backlund and turned Swede Hansen face before Swede would take off and retire. Magnificent Morocco takes the title from Pedro on this night, Intercontinental, and we have a new champion. Superfly Snuka takes on Playboy Buddy Rose. Superfly Jimmy Snuka on the cover with Captain Lou Albano, and Snuka now had turned face, obviously, and in the magazines it's just about there. And throughout now, from January on, you'll see Superfly, leaps and bounds. His popularity just went crazy when he turned face. And January of '83's issue, great shot. Ivan Putski missing the tooth. January '83's issue with Cowboy Bob Orton. So this is actually the poster for this, but Superstar Billy Graham makes his first magazine cover posing since the 70s with his new martial art gimmick. And man, what a different look he's got with the mustache, and still pretty big and still looking good that way. This is a signed copy, but this is also the poster Superstar pullout, and I also had that signed by Superstar at the bottom there. Good looking shot of Superstar, man. Still got the big pipes and looking good. Just not the Superstar we all wanted to come back. Wrestling Review, and it's got a small corner shot of Buddy Rogers' corner. That was like a Piper's Pit segment, interview segment, midway through the show of the TV. January of 1983's issue of Review. WWF would put out their own magazine, and then they would start limiting the amount of photographers at the shows for taking photos, and all the photos would now belong to property of the WWF, and so magazine coverage would get a little bit less throughout the years, but they still managed to get their shots here and there. But issue number 1 from Victory Wrestling Magazine, which was Stanley Weston owned Victory Sports name and sued McMahon and had him change the magazine name to WWF Magazine a few issues later. So not many of those victories around. Backlund defending the title on Valentine's Day Massacre. Valentine's Day at the Garden, taking on Morocco. Also, the Samoans take on Andre and Snuka. Crippler Stevens, Chief J. Strongbow, Morales challenging Buddy Rose, Superstar Graham, and Rocky Johnson. And Superstar lost a lot of weight, I think, for this match. He was real lean for that one. And then a few months after that, he's really small. Jules Strongbow taking on John Studd, Tony Gurria, and Mr. Fuji. Valentine's Day. The Wrestler, February of '82. Superstar Graham bloodied up against Backlund on the small corner shot of the Wrestler. Wrestling's Main Event, Superfly Jimmy Snuka flying off the top rope, coming down on his opponent. Great looking shot. Superfly now, they're catching up to the magazines where he was attacked on television and the crippler broke his neck. And great looking shot, great looking time period for the WWF. Jimmy Snuka, will he be able to survive without Captain Lou Albano on the cover of PWI? Yeah, I think he'll do just fine. Superfly Snuka, the story of the change in Superfly, and here he is posing on his first cover of the rings, along with Adrian Adonis at the bottom. The Garden, and the Garden main event, Backlund taking on Morocco in a return bout. Superfly, Snuka, and Andre take on Stud and the Samoans. Billy Graham taking on Jules Strombo. Yeah, this would be Graham's last match in the WWF, and he would really be leaned up at that time. Only to reappear I believe he went to Florida first and then to Crockett. He may have went to Crockett territory first for a minute and then to Florida. There's I forget the transition there. In '84, he takes on a feud with Billy Jack and becomes the Florida champion. And he has a few Pro Wrestling USA TV appearances when they merged the TV show with AWA and NWA, but I just don't remember what was first. March of '83. He's taking on Pedro. It's just a few months back. He was taking on Pedro at the Garden. Here's the front cover. Year-end awards, PWI, and Bob Backlund got the Wrestler of the Year and Match of the Year, Superfly, and Snuka, and Backlund in a cage for the title. So two WWFs take some awards in this year. Good-looking cover with Backlund as champ. Superfly on the corner with Buddy Rogers in March of '83. Tommy Rich and Roddy Piper get the main cover. Superfly Snuka destroying Captain Lou on the small shot. Kind of weird here. Superfly Snuka banned in Missouri. Where did that come from, right? He just turned face. He's in the WWF, and what's he doing in Missouri and what's he doing banned? Apparently, Buddy Rogers and Superfly just did a world tour. They went down to test the competition in Missouri because they heard they had some of the best wrestlers in that territory. And he takes on, I forget who in the match. He comes off the top rope and does a Superfly splash, and he's disqualified. And he boycotts it and says, why am I disqualified? Because you can't come off the top rope and hit your opponent. And they said, well, he didn't come off the top rope and hit him. He leaped on him. He didn't jump on him, so therefore it shouldn't be disqualified. And they didn't disqualify him, and they changed the outcome of the match, and Superfly wins. Same night, he tag team partners with Dick the Bruiser, and he does the same thing. Comes off the top rope and does the Superfly leap. And as he's mid-flight, ready to land on his opponent with the leap, the bell starts ringing. The commissioner rushes to the ring, disqualifies Snuka, and for what now? He goes, for leaping off the top rope, and it gets against the rules here. And he's like, well, I just did it in the match before, and it was fine. And they're like, well, no, we don't consider this a leap. We consider this a body press and landing on your opponent. Therefore, you are disqualified, and you're banned from Missouri. So he makes a trip to see Dick the Bruiser and in the territory and gets banned for 1 year. But soon to be taking over everyone's TV would be the WWF, and they would be back in that territory once again. Wrestling Review, March of 1983. Strombo brothers are the tag team champions once more, and the announcement of them winning the tag team titles in this issue, Wrestling Review. Madison Square Garden, Andre and Stud get the cover, and a small run, which didn't last but maybe 6 weeks. Ivan Koloff reappears in the WWF, and I was pretty excited about him coming back, and only to disappear again. He was there very shortly, and I wish he would have stayed a little bit longer, but he comes in for a month and challenges Backlund at the Garden. Morocco taking on Rocky Johnson. The Samoans take on the Strombo brothers. And Superfly Snuka taking on Billy Graham. So Graham is here for one more match. I think that would be it for the Superstar. And making his appearance in the WWF would be Iron Mike Sharp in the Philly Spectrum for April. A lot of people, laughed and said, "Oh, Iron Mike Sharp, he's just, a job guy." He didn't come to the WWF as a job guy. He came there coming from Canada, holding several titles in the Pacific Northwest territory, Pacific West, and it was managed by Captain Lou Albano and had a shot against Backlund. And it's April's Spectrum edition of Major League Wrestling program, Iron Mike. And he wouldn't last long with it. It would be just that one little title run for Backlund and then pretty much mid-card and under. April 83, Superfly still taking on Captain Lou in the bloody battle that those two had. Tiger Mask wins the WWF Junior Heavyweight Championship belt, and here he is on the cover. He defeats the Dynamite Kid. I thought I had that in a program, but maybe I passed it already. April of 83, the wrestler, Tiger Mask's first appearance, first cover. Superstar and Backlund on the cover of Sports Review. And here is the match to this one. I had a feeling I had some of the programs I have doubles of, and I would put them behind the magazine so I know which one it went with. I thought it was one before, but it's that one there. Annual 83 Spring Superstar and Backlund. This would be your last look pretty much at Superstar in the WWF with the karate gimmick Spring Annual. Backlund and Morocco, wrestling's main event, April of 83. Superfly and Captain Lou on the cover, April's edition from the December-January card that they feuded on Wrestling Scene. Here's another one. Like I was saying before, if I have doubles of the programs, I usually put them behind. So this was from November's match at the Garden, and there's the match. Superfly, after getting jumped by the Crippler and Captain Lou, great looking bloody shot of Superfly. Man, we thought he killed him. Backlund on the cover of The Rings. Bob Backlund, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Remember that stupid saying in the 80s? Yeah. The final look at the WWF Madison Square Garden program with this style, and the next issues would become the new layout owned by Vince McMahon. So no longer will it be done by Wrestling News, and they would have their own independent program, would be the Joe Generic program, one size fits all for every arena. I hated those. I like these so much better. This is also the first month the Fabulous Moolah now defending for the first time the WWF Ladies Championship, and she's been champ for whatever years, they say 20, 25, which was not necessarily true. But anyway, Ladies Champion, she owned the rights to it for the NWA World's Women's Championship, and McMahon pulled from the NWA for the final time and now is independent from the NWA, and he had bought the rights from Moolah's Women's Championship belt, and now he is renaming it the WWF Women's Championship. It's never been announced as the WWF Women's Champion until this card. And let's see, Monday, May 23rd, 1983, 8 p.m., Backlund taking on Slaughter, Morocco taking on Rocky Johnson, Leilani Kai is on the card with Susan Starr, and is Moolah even on here? No. Oh, no, yeah, sure it is, against Princess Victoria, Fabulous Moolah. I had to pull it closer because I can't see that far away. So she defends it against Princess Victoria. For the first time in WWF history, they have their own women's heavyweight or women's championship title belt. June 1983, Backlund taking on Big John Studd, Inside Wrestling. The Wild Samoans get the first cover of a posed shot, great looking shot of the Samoans and Captain Lou of May of 1983. Great looking shot again of the Intercontinental Champion, Magnificent Morocco, with the gold. Ivan Koloff returns east, and it's making the magazines on wrestling's main event. May of '83, using an older picture from the Mid-Atlantic territory with Paul Orndorff. Superfly on the cover. Should he get another title shot against Backlund? The fans demand it. Take the poll. Send in your. Everyone voted yes. Premiere issue of Official Wrestling Magazine, May '83. It's got an older shot. It's a WWF shot from the Garden of Hogan, but he's not in the WWF at this point. But I figured I might as well show it. Superfly Snuka is considered Wrestler of the Year by Official Wrestling's ratings. Here is the new style of the WWF program. Good looking shot. Great looking shot, actually, for the first cover of the new style. I didn't collect many of these. I got a bunch. I have the first bunch here and there, but just kind of lost it. I'd lost the the interest in them. Just didn't like it. Didn't really like that McMahon owned them, and just wasn't the same anymore. Rick Martel on the cover with Mr. Saito on the bottom here. Rick Martel, June '83, a year of greatness or disaster for him. At this point now, he's in the AWA. But a WWF picture makes the cover. Snuka taking on Backlund at the Garden and Wrestling World, June of '83. Good looking shot there. Older shot. Now Snook is face. Magnificent. Mil Mascaras making an appearance at the Garden. Great looking shot of Mil on the cover of Main Event. Tiger Mask in action as the WWF Junior Heavyweight Champion. And right here at the bottom of Wrestling Review, June. Nature Boy Buddy Rogers returns to the ring and is discussing the match with in the Spectrum with Snuka, Albano, and Stevens. They were supposed to do it at the Garden too, and something happened and the match never happened. I may have the program coming up now that I think of it up there. I'll take a look. July '83, Putski taking on Adrian Adonis. I see his furry boots and I'm thinking Snuka. Backlund takes the front cover of Wrestling Review. Good looking shot of Bob there with the gold and the American flag jacket. Bob again on the cover of Wrestling Superstars '83. Official Wrestling issue, I believe, number 2. It's got Snuka and Rogers at the Philly Spectrum. Also, your first look at Macho Man Savage on the cover of a magazine. First people to pop him for his first appearance. And July '83. Also, Pedro Morales defending the Intercontinental title back when he was champ. August '83 Wrestling World. Rick Martel on the cover once again. From the Garden. August '83, Superfly Snuka, small corner shot here of Wrestling Review. '83 Annual and Magnificent Morocco, good looking shot of Morocco and Bob Backlund. Cowboy Bob Orton, second gen. I just opened this up because a lot of people really don't get a chance to see. And there's an early shot of Bob here with his father when they were tag team champions, the Florida tag team champions. So that's Bob Orton Sr., Bob Orton Jr., and, of course, the kids know who Randy Orton is. Randy's a good-looking kid, good-looking, strong kid. I've never seen him wrestle, but if he's anything like his dad and grandpop, I'm sure he's worth all the pennies he's been making in the WWF. Not many covers with Cowboy Bob, and not much talk about his father much. So just thought I would show those two as the tag champs in Florida. Tito Santana on the new style program for the WWF in September. Bruno Sammartino making a return to the magazine covers, looking really good out of nowhere. Just comes on the cover and still looks in fantastic shape. I wonder if he's thinking about coming out of retirement. Time would only tell. I believe it's this issue. Let me see. October MSG, and I believe this was Snuka and Morocco in the cage, the famous match, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever. Yeah, Snuka and Morocco. Let's see. No, I'm mistaken. It must have been the next month. I had Buddy Rogers and Snuka were supposed to take on Albano and the Crippler, but it didn't happen. So I thought it was that. I know I have the program somewhere. I guess I got the dates wrong. October 83 Sports Review, Valentine with Martel. Maybe it's in this one. I don't think so. But this is November's issue. Backlund takes on the Masked Superstar. And it's also talking about the Grand Wizard had passed away. Let's just see. Bear with me a sec. No, Snuka takes on Slaughter. Okay, I thought I had it. It must be in another pile or something. I know I have it somewhere, but Buddy Rogers was supposed to come to the Garden and take on Albano, the same match they did at the Spectrum. And I always wonder why that happened at the Spectrum and not the Garden for such a big show like that would be. And it was supposed to, but I don't know what happened. November 83, Blackjack takes on Andre with the treaded claw hold on the cover. Good looking shot again. Backlund takes on Ron Bass down in Florida from the NWA. Backlund now with the new shaved head and changing his appearance a little bit, and soon to be losing his title very shortly here. November of 1983. Things are about to be twisted upside down and on its head forever as far as the sport of professional wrestling goes. December 1983, the Samoans tag team champions, and in the corner here, great looking shot of the Samoans. Masked Superstar and Tito Santana on December's issue of The Wrestler. And finishing the year in December, final issue, Superfly Snuka, the cage match with Magnificent Morocco on the cover of Exciting Pro. And that's a look back on 82 and 83. Look back at the WWF. So it was just too many to do. If I just did a magazine video for all the WWF, it would be ridiculous. So I just broke it up a little bit, and we just focused on those two very important years, pivotal years in the sport. Like I said, things are about to change, not necessarily for the better either. For some people it was. For old school fans who loved the sport for what it was, it's not some great news for us. And of course, I'm talking about Hulkamania and the whole change up there and the following year to come. 83 would be the cutoff point of some of the best times for me and my clique of friends. That's where I choose to live. I kind of stay at this point and into the 70s for the WWF. Now, of course, cable TV came on, and in that same year, 84, 85, and the floodgates opened, and we had every single company there was to see, which was great. So it was a great trade-off that way. Just the entertainment thing is what killed it for us fans who were diehard and loved it as much as we did. So ending out, 2 great years of 1982 and 1983. Some great wrestling in the WWF before it would become the cartoon circus era. All right, guys, thanks for looking back on 82, 83 WWF. We're going to do one for Georgia Championship Wrestling pretty soon. Got a bunch of videos that you guys have been asking for, and I will be getting on to those. So we'll see you on the next few.